Hello, 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 and welcome to Exhale with Regina. I have a special guest here today, Angela T. Moore, and I am really excited to have Angela T. Moore with us today on Exhale with Regina. Women owning their voices. And I am really excited for the simple fact, as I was telling Angela, that she is truly the entire package. My sisters out there today, we're going to talk from holistic and what it means for Angela in that space. So I'm excited about her today. I'm so excited that you guys are going to be joining. I just want Angela to know people do go back and listen, and I promote it and put it out there, and it's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And we do have repeats to come. So let me just share a little bit with you guys about what is Exhale with Regina all about. Exhale with Regina is designed to help women to see themselves. Many women do not see their gifts, talents, and abilities, and it keeps them stuck in shame, false guilt, comparison, low self-esteem, and a poor self-image. Women can struggle with embracing themselves based on societal norms, family expectation, and distorted thoughts towards themselves. Women who embrace themselves, they see their beauty, not the beauty as the world defined it, but their beauty, their purpose. And I want you to know that this is what Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Voices video podcast is all about. But I want to share before Angela and I jump into me interviewing her. I just want to really share her background with you, her bio. Angela T. Moore is an integrative health expert, keynote speaker, radio personality, and I had the awesome opportunity to be on her radio show. It's on 9:10 a.m. station. And Angela, that's on Sundays at 2 o'clock?
From 1 to 3.
Oh, 1 to 3. Okay. And that's on Sundays from 1 to 3 p.m. So please tune in and watch Angela T. Moore. Angela provides integrative health assessments, mental, nutritional, and physical health programming, educational webinars, interactive workshops, and empowerment coaching to individuals, community, and corporate groups. Angela is a NASM master trainer, performance enhancement specialist, PES, corrective exercise specialist, CES, and fitness nutrition specialist, FNS, through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. She is also a nationally certified counselor. We have that in common. At least I'm a licensed certified counselor. And a limited licensed professional counselor, LLPC. Angela is also a health and wellness blog contributor for A Healthier Michigan, providing health and wellness education and healthy lifestyle strategies to individual and business professionals. Angela hosts the Empowered radio show on 9:10 a.m., in which she interviews medical, mental health professional experts in wellness and prevention, activities and advocates, educators, motivators, and organizations that help people live an empowered life. She combines her knowledge, expertise, experience to empower people to be their best selves through healthy thinking, healthy living, and exercise. I'm telling you, Angela, with that, let us exhale together. So again, I want to thank you for being on Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Voices. And I just want to get started with the question, because I feel like I have so many questions inside of me. So I really want to ask you, tell me about your brand. Tell me how you started this journey.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I am an integrative health expert. So I am a licensed therapist, a certified nutrition specialist, as well as a NASM master trainer. And I tell people that my motivation to become all those things really started when I was in the 10th grade, the ninth grade, when I lost my mom to a massive stroke, and I was only 13. And so very early on, I realized the impact, the negative impact that stress and lack of physical activity and just being in my mom was in a very negative situation, and how that could, drastically impact your health. And it ultimately killed her. And then years later, I lost my brother to suicide. And it was one of those situations where my brother seemed fine. I'd actually gone out to California to see him, visited with him and his wife, had a really great time. And then 3 weeks later, or 2 weeks later, I got a phone call that he had died by suicide. So it was one of those situations. And in both those situations, actually, it was, the person was fine one day and not gone the next. And so I understood and learned very early on in my life the impact of our decisions, as well as our environment. And what I have learned is that if you can proactively take care of yourself, you can take care of yourself mentally, nutritionally, and physically, you can improve your life situations as well as improve your health. And you can prevent those things from happening like they happened in my life.
Well, that's really powerful because you said that you began the journey actually in ninth grade and it came out of a painful situation. And I really thank you for being open and even sharing that and the loss of your mother. But you picked some very positive avenues uh, to stroll down, whereas that can be very difficult. What helped you to do that?
Yeah, well, first let me tell you that the road was extremely difficult, and it is sometimes, quite honestly. And when I first started the journey to healing, it really was when I felt like emotionally I had kind of hit rock bottom. I was kind of uh, I had a victim mentality. And I identify myself by the traumas that I experienced, by the losses I had experienced in my life. And then ironically, I was listening to a spiritual teacher. You may be familiar with her, Joyce Meyer. And
Yes.
yeah, and I read her book, Battlefield of the Mind, as well as My Big Mouth. And I had listened to some of her spiritual teachings. And one of the things that she said that was truly life changing for me is she said, you may have a reason for behaving the way you do, but you don't have a right. And so then at that point, I had to take personal responsibility for my actions. And what I had realized is that when I took a hard look at myself, I realized that I was not living to my full potential. I was stuck in my past. And I realized that, okay, at this point in your life, if you're going to create a better life for yourself, you're going to have to do it. And I started taking steps to do that.
Yeah, Angela, you point out something that oftentimes people, period, but women, we can live out of our past. But before I ask you that question, we have some comments already. So let
Okay.
me see. Lolita, hey, Regina. Thanks, Lolita, for joining. And a Facebook person, she said, yes. So she's in agreement with you. And then Lolita again said, go, Angela.
Thank you.
So we so oftentimes can get stuck in the past. And we don't even recognize that we're stuck in the past of being a victim.
Mhm.
I too have read Joyce Meyer's book, particularly the one on emotional healing.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, that really helped change my life as well.
Mhm.
But taking the responsibility, I know that that can be a real struggle because we say, well, I didn't create this.
Mhm.
So, how did you begin to say, I'm responsible for my healing?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I started looking at situations in my life, and I looked at healthy situations, and I started to look at unhealthy situations. And what I realized is that those healthy situations were the ones where I was proactive in those, where I had just made the decision like that. I'm going to be a good mom. I'm going to be a good wife. I'm going to be, a good friend. Those areas where I was struggling in, and it was in relationships. It was, and also it was looking at past experiences from a negative way. And so let's just stay there. So, like you think about negative experiences. So I had a very, in addition to having the loss of my mom and brother, I had a very strained relationship with my father. And at one point I had a strange relationship with my living brother. And what I realized in those relationships is that I was allowing those people to impact my life in a negative way. And when I took control of saying, okay, I'm going to determine how you're going to impact my life, I'm going to control our conversations, I'm going to control our interactions, then I realized I was able to improve those relationships. And then I noticed that the areas where I was healthy in my life were those areas, like I said, where I had made the decision that I was going to be a certain way. And I also recognized that when I would exercise and then when I would eat well, that it also positively impacted my life, as well as it positively impacted those people around me. And so that's why now then and now I take a proactive approach to not only fix those areas in my life, to create healthy relationships, to maintain healthy relationships, to, if I can, remove toxic relationships out of my life or manage the unhealthy relationships in a way it does not impact me in a negative way. And I make the decision daily to make healthy decisions and to take very good care of myself.
Now you're intentional about it.
Very, very
Very intentional, yes. And hearing you even say that you recognize where you had healthy relationships in your life, or you realize when you ate right, and um when you let toxic people go out of your life, that life went much smoother for you. Yeah, that's really powerful, because oftentimes that is part of being a victim. But I think that the world lives in, and not everybody in the world, I'm just talking about in general, live in that space of blame, this is the thing that did this to my life. And you refuse to take that on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And being intentional. Can you speak a little bit more about that? And then someone has a question for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's, as when I wake up each day, I make the decision that I'm going to have a healthy day, that I'm going to make it a happy day. And anything that starts to intrude that thought, like that starts to impede that thought, I remove it right away. And so when I start to have negative thoughts, I start to think in more positive ways. If I have a negative, let's just say I may have a conversation with my husband or my son, and I'm like, you know what, that conversation didn't go the way that I wanted it to. I immediately try to think of ways that I can fix those conversations, or that I can impact, the rest of my day in a positive way. And that's what I just really encourage everyone to do, is that, you're going to always have negative people and negative things that happen in your life. You have to decide how you're going to live your life, regardless of those situations or circumstances. Because if you don't, what you allow is you allow the negative things to have power over you. And you allow the negative things to take hold of your life and to impact your life in a way. And sometimes it can actually stunt your growth and keep you from moving forward. But if you can, wake up in each day and make that decision, make that commitment that you're going to be positive, that you're going to live in a healthy way, and you're going to make healthy decisions and create healthy experiences, then your life will over time become truly the life that you want to live and that you're happy to live. And I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, yes, yes. Let me get this question, and then I do want to piggyback on something. Did you ever have a client that you knew you couldn't help the way you wanted to?
Yes, most definitely. And those are those individuals that are okay being stuck, that they're really not ready to take the responsibility for their actions, for their behaviors, and they're not willing to make the commitment that they're willing to move forward. And and I understand that. I understand that mentality, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to help you get out of that. And I'll say this. So one of the things that people don't realize, so one of the things I didn't mention is I grew up in a very dysfunctional background. So I witnessed violence. I saw people acting in very negative ways. And one of the things that I recognize is that when you grow up in dysfunctional backgrounds, and that's been your experience for years, you're going to think dysfunctional first. And
Okay.
so you have to recognize that, you may be unhealthy at times in your mindset. But if you're willing to work with on your own by doing the work, either through, it may be going to church, it may be listening to spiritual teachings, it may be working with a therapist like myself or like you. If you're willing to do the work and kind of make those changes and identify, your thought patterns, the unhealthy thought patterns, and you're ready and willing to make the changes, then you will create the positive change in your life. But until you're ready to do that, then it's not much that I can do or someone like you can do if you are insistent on staying that way and staying stuck. And sometimes I've had people come and and I've challenged them in a way, and that they're not ready to step up. And 100% of the time they've come back and say, okay, I get it. I need to do the work.
You make an excellent point because you pointed out two things, and you talked about being in the process, you know, and being ready to do that. Because if people are not ready, they are going to present a lot of resistance. You know, I remember when I was going through my healing process, and I shared it with you on your radio show. But I don't think I said this part. I mean, when God was trying to push me in the direction of my healing, I was a goat. I
Mm-hmm.
literally was kicking and screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you have to want to uh, confront that pain.
Yeah, you do.
And so it's easier to stay with the familiar pain than to move into the what we call the unfamiliar heaven.
Right.
And I really admire you because you had such a great loss. A young lady is really defined. That's the first woman in our lives,
Mm-hmm.
and to lose your mom so young, and also to and I of course I can only empathize, but when I didn't have grandparents, I would say, I wish I had grandparents, and this bothered me or that bothered me, or I saw how people were together with their grandparents. you know I so admire you just getting through all of that, Angela.
Thank you. Yeah.
That was a lot. You want to speak about that?
Well, it's interesting, you say getting through it, and I am still getting through it, quite honestly. And that's the thing that I think people have to understand is that, when you have that kind of loss, it's not something that you get over. And it's not something that, you kind of grow out of, and you can kind of, okay, yeah, I was 13 and I'm not 51 now. And someone would say, okay, do you still grieve for your mom? Very much so, very much so. The difference is that the grief it's not so overwhelming, not so overbearing that it keeps me from moving forward. That I can think about the loss, I can grieve about the loss, I can cry about the loss, but I can still go on. I can still, and when I say go on, like go on with my day, go on with my goals, go on with being a mother, a wife, a woman, a business owner, a radio host, and all those kind of things. But it does not take away the pain. It does not take away the loss. So, you think about as a woman, when you have those significant milestones in your life that you would want to share with your mother and you can't, or those times when you would feel like you would want to, when you need a maternal influence in your life. And if you have not been able to replace that person, you're at a loss and you feel sad, because you know that that's an area where you don't have that person in your life. But what I have learned is that I've learned to mother myself, and I've learned to nurture myself, And so in that way, I've still been able to continue to heal.
Yep. You back? Okay, you're back. You were
Yeah.
saying something real good. That's what I say when stuff like that happen. Oh, you said something real good. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, do you remember where you left off at, Angela?
Which part? What was the last part that you heard?
You were talking about still getting through, and how people think that you're just going to just be over something, and that's not true. But you've learned to, have your grief moments, and it doesn't stop you from moving forward in your day.
Right, right, yeah. And also, setting goals for myself and trying to become, the best mom that I can be. And that's what's so important, because sometimes when we have a significant loss like that, we get so caught up in the loss that we stop living, and we stop, we don't become, as a woman, like if we have children, we don't become the mother that we needed our mothers to be, or the mothers that we want to be. And so you really do have to make a decision, um, of who you're going to be, regardless of the fact that that person is not in your life. Because you think about it, as a woman, oftentimes people say, well, my mom taught me that. She taught me to cook. She taught me to do this. Or oftentimes you model those behaviors that you've seen. But if the person's not in your life and you don't have that maternal influence, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. And what I would tell any woman out there is that you do have the power within you to be whatever it is that you need to be. And so if you don't have your mother, if you don't have a positive relationship with your mother, if you're lacking a positive maternal influence in your life, it's okay, because you can mother yourself and you can nurture yourself, and you'll be all right.
Oh, that's really powerful. Here, we have some. Lolita said, I really needed to hear this, Regina. Is God. A
Mm.
Facebook user. I'm going to ask you, Facebook user, if you don't mind going on StreamYard and putting your information in, for we can see your name and acknowledge you. But thank you so much for joining. You say great conversation, and I always say you get through it, but not over it. Okay. And then Lolita says, what can I tell my nieces that lost their mom 2 months ago? My niece said today, I just want to talk to my mom.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the pain, right, 2 months ago, I mean, that pain is just like, that's real. I mean, that's right now. That's probably at this point, it's funny, because right after you lose someone, it's almost like you're in a state of numbness where you're almost not feeling anything. About, 1 month, 2 months after, it's really intense grief, because it's the reality sets in that the person's not there and they're not coming back. And the flowers are gone, the relatives are gone, there nobody, and people forget to ask you, how you're doing. And so I will tell her to tell her nieces that, that they can still talk to their mom, that they can say whatever it is that they want to say in a private, room. They can say it. They can write her a letter and let her know, how
Yes.
they miss her and how they feel about her. And then I would also, say whatever it is that they're feeling, it's okay, whatever it is you're feeling. Because some days you're going to be angry, some days you're going to be resentful, some days you're going to feel happy because you're going to be able to think about a special memory. Some day you're going to feel so sad and you're going to feel like nobody understands. And I'm just here to tell you, from someone who lost her mom, you're going to be okay.
Yes, 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 Angela. That's really powerful. And you even referencing other, people, um, that is really true that that day, that last day,
Mm-hmm.
when people stop coming over, when they stop bringing the food, when they, that's when you really need people most. But they seemingly, at least in what I have discovered in the society that we live in, it's like you should be getting over it. Just
Mm-hmm.
get over it.
Yeah.
I remember when I lost my dad and I was still crying. Now I have lost both my parents, but
Mm-hmm.
I was still crying and I was talking to people that I didn't even know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how deep the pain was. And these were two, they were dating, they were going to be ministers, but I can see how uncomfortable I made them
Mm-hmm.
in talking about it, because the question was, how long has it been?
Mm-hmm.
And that it doesn't matter. It,
No,
it's not on a timeline, and
it's
that's
not.
really what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to understand that there are going to be moments, that, holidays, special occasions, times that you wish that you had, that your mother. There are going to also be times when you're going to feel bad because you're going to have a day where maybe you don't think about her, and you're going to be like, oh, I feel guilty. I feel ashamed that she didn't come up in my mind today. And so I remember having that experience, and I've had other people share that experience, that guilt and
Mhm.
shame of when you do have some good days afterwards,
Yes,
and you feel guilty about that,
yeah,
especially when the loss is really fresh. But also too, I will say, it's when you have those significant milestones or those significant experiences where you really need your mom. That's a good time to look around and see what other maternal people are in your life. It may be a teacher, it may be your coach, it may be a really good friend. But one of the things I will say, you got to be careful who you decide to share your story with, and
yes,
who you decide to share your grief and loss, and make sure that the person is the right person to share that experience with you, and that they're going to honor the story, and that they're going to respect the story and respect where you are with your experience and your story. Because if they're not, as you have that kind of negative experience, but you really realize, or at least you felt like you were making the people uncomfortable by what you were saying, and they're probably really good people, but at the time and at the place, they were not the right people for her to
right.
meet at the time. So if you are grieving, and I would say to the lady, that referenced her nieces, it may be, what she can do too to help her nieces is maybe be that person that they can turn to, or help them find someone that they can turn to if they need that kind of like maternal influence in their life.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And even, hearing you, there are two things I want to bring up, but I want to go back to motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
and the mother that you said that you strive to be and you wanted to be, and seeing that vision.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that space for you, because you said earlier on that it was a negative situation, that caused your mom, to have the massive stroke. And so that meant that you made some intentional decisions about how life was going to be for you. Can you speak a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I shared with you, prior to us starting today, that I don't remember a lot of things about my mom because I was only 13 when she passed. And prior to that, she had been, I think she was clinically depressed because we were in a
Okay.
really negative situation. So she was not really present. And so, when I became a mother, and I saw that beautiful little baby boy,
Yeah.
and he was just so beautiful. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to be the best mom I could be. And I visualized what that would be, and what I wanted that to be, and you know, as a woman and as a young girl, like, you know, if you were a girl, or if you were a little, you know, a little kid, what would you want, you know, your mother to be? And so, you know, I couldn't remember if my mom had read to me. I couldn't remember. I remember us playing one day when she took me to a pool, and I remember I had a baby doll, and she made a dress for
Okay.
my baby doll.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember the sound of her voice. I don't remember very many interactions.
Okay. Okay.
But I said to myself, I would really want to be the kind of mom that would read to my kids. And so I read to them every night. I would want to be the kid that would teach my kids to pray. So I prayed with them. I'd want to be the mom that would teach them how to take care of themselves. And so I taught them how to make up their bed and how to wash their clothes and how to take care of themselves. And then I also said, you know, one of the things that I didn't get was I didn't remember that my mother's voice. I didn't remember sitting down and having that, like, those one-to-one conversations. And so I intentionally, with my first son and with my second, whenever I'd have a conversation with them, I would look right at them. And I
Okay.
would, and I made a decision that I would, you know, I would try to be present. And so if someone called on the phone, or someone, you know, a neighbor would stop by, if I was doing something with my kid, I'm like, I can't, you know, I wouldn't even answer the phone. And then if somebody would like stop by uninvited, I would say, you know, we're in the middle of something. Um, you know, I need, this is something that I need to do. I need to focus on my
Okay.
kid.
Okay.
And because of that, I have to say I have these wonderful, well-mannered, beautiful young men who are
Okay.
the light of my life, and they're really, really great kids. Not that they haven't been perfect, and nor have I, but I woke up each day trying to be the best I could be.
That is really awesome. How old are your boys?
27 and 29.
Oh, you have adult boys.
I do.
Yes, and you know, prior to coming on, you've been married and together for how long? Like this has been, it's
Yeah,
like forever.
going on 34 years. My husband and I've been
That is
together.
awesome. You know, Angela, I'm in awe of you. And there's just so many lessons that us as women can really learn from you because when sometimes when we have been in these topsy-turvy of family relationships, they can flow over. And you know, divorce rate is 50% for first marriages and 75%. Even though I understand during the pandemic, the divorce rate did go down, but it went up amongst the younger people.
Mhm.
So the fact that you had these defining moments, and to hear you say, you know, I didn't allow it to define my marriage, my relationship with my boys, my life. That is powerful.
Yeah. And you know, you brought it in regards to my marriage, and I may not have answered your question if you had asked me about my marriage. You know, the funny thing about my marriage is my husband and I made the decision, one, that we were going to have a partnership. And so we work as a team and always have. It's never been a thing where I'm responsible for this, or all responsible for this, and he's all responsible for that. We both have cared for our children. We both have cared for our home. We both have contributed to our household. But we also made the decision, like I grew up in a very, like I said, dysfunctional background where people screamed and yelled and threw things and argued and raised their voices. And my husband made the decision we would not raise our voices. My kids have never heard us raise our voices against each other.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now, and it's not because we've tried to create this like little fairy tale where we don't ever have problems, but we made the decision that when we discuss our problems, we're going to discuss them in a respectful way, and we're not going to raise our voices to do so. And my kids have now, as I said, 27, 29, they've never seen us raise our voices at each other.
That is absolutely awesome. And I love that. Again, those making decisions and being intentional about it, you know, you are very strong. As a matter of fact, I wanted to share the quote from your um website, and it says, "You are stronger than you think and more powerful than you would ever believe." Angela T. Moore, that is your own quote.
Mhm.
You want to talk about that quote a little, and how you end up embracing that and saying that and even making it a part of who you are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I think about strength, you know, there's internal strength and there's external strength, and that represents everything about me, because there's the internal work that you have to do to want to identify your strength that you have inside, and also to do those things that's going to strengthen, you know, your natural traits, your characteristics, everything that makes you uniquely you. And then there's the external strength. So those are the things that you can do in terms of lifting weights, you know, and taking care of yourself and making your body stronger by taking very good care of it. And then when you talk about power, again, it's tapping into those internal things about you, as well as those things are external, and then using those things to create the life that you ultimately want to live. And that's very powerful. And it's also, it's the thing that's so amazing about it is it shows you that you have control. And not only do you have control, but you have everything within you to get stronger, to be stronger, to be powerful. And that's an amazing thing.
Yes, yes, yes. That is powerful. I really like how you have said that, because all the things that you've been through, and even now you know you have your own business. You provide services on all levels, you know, mentally, physically, nutritionally. You know, how did you start? I know you said that, you know, from when you were younger, you thought about those eat, you know, how you ate, and you know how that impacted you, and you know your thoughts and everything. But how did you end up turning it into a business?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because I started out doing just primarily training, personal training and group training. But what was interesting is that my clients, they were not thanking me for losing weight. They weren't thanking me for getting bigger muscles. They were thanking me for helping them deal with difficult life situations. And one of the things that I had noticed is that I had the opportunity to do a lot of counseling for victims of rape and incest, and also victims who were experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder. And there was a certain shame and guilt when they would describe their situations. And there's a certain expression that I would see on their face. But what I recognize is that those individuals that also came to me to lose weight, whenever they consumed food, especially unhealthy food, they had the same look of guilt and shame. And they were experiencing the same emotions. And so what I recognize is that you cannot separate it. Because if you are exercising, but you're not eating well, and you don't have healthy relationships, and you're not taking care of those things that are important in your life, nurturing those things that you want to grow, and then removing those toxic things out of your life, what happens is it has a very negative impact on you. And so it's all related.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, and seeing it as all related, right? We have to see that everything about us impacts something else about us.
Most definitely it does.
Yeah.
And what you choose to eat, and whether you decide to move or stay stuck, has a lot to do with how you're feeling about yourself. And so the funny thing is when you eat better and you start to move, you're going to feel better, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But oftentimes we do the opposite of that. You know, when we're experiencing grief and loss, and we're experiencing pain, or we're dealing with challenging situations, what do? We start gravitating, we start grabbing unhealthy foods, and we start, and then we go in the bed and lay in the bed and get under covers and don't do anything. And I'm saying, no, do the opposite, because if you want a positive result, you want a positive outcome, you have to do positive things. And those are the kind of things that you can do every day that's going to move you in a positive direction.
Yes, I want to pull up your and unfortunately so I'm gonna pull it up still, because I said I wanted to talk about your checklist.
Okay.
And you're giving that as a gift to everyone, where they can go and get this checklist. So I know exactly where it is, because I downloaded it. Okay. I'm sorry to pause, but I want to see the list. It's gonna make me fill this out again. It should have downloaded though.
Look at your downloads. Go to your, you know how to go to your download folder. If you download, it should be in there.
Yeah, I'll put in checklist. I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to share that checklist and talk about that. Let me see if this is it right here. Checklist. Nope, that ain't it. Does it say your name on the checklist?
I think it just says daily 10 checklist.
Oh,
Yeah.
daily 10. Okay, let me try that then.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's see, can I get it back? I hope so. Um, I wanted that checklist because I think people will really gain from it. And that's my hope. So let me see. Daily 10. Daily 10. That should be coming up. It's not coming up for some reason.
Okay. Yeah, and when I
No.
created the checklist, what I wanted to do is give people 10 simple things that they could do, each and
Okay.
every day that would let me see if I can pull it up for you.
Yeah. Do you have it? I mean, I can, because I think it would be really good for people to. And when
I
my
do
compute
have
when my
it.
computer went out, unfortunately, the checklist it seemed like went with it.
Would you like me to read the 10 things I actually
Oh
have?
yeah, that would be great. And I wanted to because the very first one is I wanted us to pause on that one because I thought it was so great.
Okay, yes, the first one is create a calm and stable emotional mental state first thing in the morning with prayer and or meditation.
Yes. So meditating, waking up in the morning, you're really saying be purposeful once again
Hmm.
about how you even start your morning. Uh, and how has that helped you to center yourself?
Well, I start my day thanking God, for the beautiful life that He's giving me. I thank Him for the people that are in my life. I also say, prayers for those people that are important in my life. And I think by starting your day with one with gratitude is really really important. But I think also though when you stop and always there's strength in standing still, and when you
Okay.
stop and you stay still and you set your mind, I think it sets you up for strength. It sets you up for a good day.
Yes, yes. I love that. And you know what? I want to ask you a question too because
Mhm.
when people have gone through tragedies, sometimes uh, you know, they can feel like, God was against them. They cursed, you know, God loved somebody else more than them. I don't have a good track record with God. What would you say to people who struggle in their relationship with God? They love God, but
Mhm.
they struggle because of things that have happened.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that you asked that, because I think that there's kind of this, this myth, this misconception that um, it's only when good things happen to you that God's with you,
Yeah.
and He's with you all the time.
Yes.
And the bad experiences, and I don't even know that I won't even call them bad, those difficult experiences that you
Okay.
have in your life are for you. They're not to harm you.
Yes.
And because you think about it, it's only during those difficult experiences when you really have to kind of dig down deep and really see what you're made of. That's when you reach out to other people. That's when you may set a goal to improve your life in that area. That's when you may tap into some of those resources that you have inside that you wouldn't have tapped into if you were in your comfort zone. So know
Yes.
that if God is having you go through it, it's because He wants you to grow from it,
Yes.
and it's for you. It's not to harm you. And I'm telling you, I was abused. I was neglected. I've lost my mom. I lost my dad. I lost my brother. I had a lot of horrible traumatic experiences happen to me. And I've told people almost at every significant milestone of my life, I had something really, really traumatic and sad happen. But do I feel like God wasn't with me? No. I feel like God was with me through all those moments, and why I had to have such a difficult life, in my early childhood. It's because of the great future that God has for me. And I'm going to have to be really, really strong for what God has for me. I'm going to have to
Yes.
be really, really resilient. I'm going to have a lot of tools in my toolkit to do the things that God has planned for me. And He would not have had me go through those things if it was not for something greater. And because I've had all those experiences, I can help anyone that's had any of those experiences. and I can share my story, and I can empower other people to become better and greater. So do I believe that God wasn't with me? I believe God specifically chose me, and I'm highly favored. And it's because he knew my strength that he allowed me to deal with those things, because he knew what I was going to do with it.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that because they didn't come to harm us. They came to make us stronger, and they came so we can live that greater, better life. But it's recognizing that, right? Getting
Mhm.
in that mindset. I have heard you say several times goal setting, goal setting. You know, you have set that goal, set that goal. Can you speak a little bit about that? Because sometimes, you know, people can feel overwhelmed, but it doesn't have to be a big goal, does it? It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
something that you got to knock out of the court. I mean, literally just getting up in the morning. So can you talk a little bit about the goal setting?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. We think about one goals. One, we think it has to be something big, and goals, little goals. You should be setting little goals. Every minute. Every hour. You could be setting goals. And know that when you set a goal, that you're raising up an expectation that is something that you want to achieve. And in doing so, by setting the goal and setting that expectation and then putting into action what you need to achieve that goal, you're going to always have growth. And so if
Yes.
you want growth, it's important to always set goals.
I love that. If you want growth, what did you say?
You're going to always need to set
You're
goals.
going to always need to set goals. Very good. And that's very true. And I think sometimes it's when we miss it, right? That we just think, and I know I was at fault for this. I just thought growth automatically happened. And it doesn't automatically happen. You
Mhm.
have to set it to happen in your life, you know. So that is wonderful. And you seem to have learned at such a young age, to have gone through so much. You know, I'm sure as you were growing up, women were saying to you, "You so wise."
It's interesting. I would say a lot of times people would say you're like, I seem like an old soul, or that you
Yes.
had like a lot of especially as I've counseled, women that are much older than me, and they have said, you don't talk like someone your age, you talk like someone who has a lot of wisdom. And I said, well, I've had a lot of experiences in my very short time. And the thing that's really amazing about those experiences is um, I learned something from those experiences. I learned something about myself, and I learned something about other people, and also how you may be impacted, how other people are maybe impacted by their experiences, and how because of my experiences, I can help them kind of navigate through theirs.
Yes,
Um,
yes. You know, that is really powerful. I want to get into one other of your, whichever one you want to read.
okay.
Um, but yes, helping others to navigate life. Now, I saw that you have spoken with corporate, you have done groups for corporate,
Mhm.
with news cast, with news stations,
Mhm.
the very the various places, and you can just easily think that these people have it together, right?
Mhm.
It's easy to think that, but everybody needs a coach.
Right.
And so, how did you start placing yourself in those areas? And I guess I'm specifically speaking to speakers like myself, to other speakers that are going to end up listening, or entrepreneurs who want to grow their business. How did you start to guide yourself in those type of arenas?
What was really interesting is anything that I'm doing right now is not something that I intentionally sought out to do,
Okay.
which is really amazing. And um, that's the thing that's so amazing about the different things that I'm doing, because like the radio show was not something I ever intended to do. I just happened to meet the owner of the station one day, and I was telling him about my business. Like, you could do a radio show. Can you start next week? And then
Wow.
the blog, the wellness blog that I do for Healthier Michigan, they some years ago decided to do a story about me because they had heard my story because I had spoken to, I interviewed a dietitian on my radio show, and they did like a spotlight on me and my business and my story. And then later, fast forward, they said, well, can you write a blog? Can you write? And I have been contributing articles, ever since. And then the other opportunities I've had to speak has been because people may have heard a portion of my story and it said, do you mind sharing that with this group or with this organization? And then other people have heard me speak and then asked me to do it over and over again. And so, now I've spoken to large audiences and small, and I feel privileged to speak to any, whether it's just one person or 700, like I did just recently. I'm honored, to do it, but to say that it's something that I woke up and said,
Set out.
that I
Okay.
was going to do those things, none of it, quite honestly. And I will say though that as those opportunities have been presented to me, I haven't doubted that that God. Uh, I haven't doubted what God was planning. I haven't doubted the fact that I have what I need to do it,
That's
because
awesome.
God wouldn't have, set it up for me if it wasn't for me.
Yes, that's powerful because we can doubt that we don't have the tools, But I've heard you say, getting those tools, in my tool belt, and and making sure that you're going not necessarily after those things, because you said is you didn't even expect this role, but you were prepared for the role.
Yeah, and along the way, I've stumbled and fall
Yes,
but that's another thing that's really important, is that people understand that just because you're like, as opportunities come your way, you're not going to be perfect when you start doing those things. There's a learning, process that has to take place. But if you are given the opportunity to do it, step into it.
step into
Step
it.
into it. And it's funny because one of the things I love to do is I love to go to the park and run the stairs. And it's nice because I know when I go up the stairs, I know where I can see, I know if I go up the stairs, I'm gonna get to the top. But life's not like that in a sense, because just in some things, some opportunities, the step appears as you're stepping,
Yes.
and you don't know where it's going. And that's where your faith comes in. And you have to kind of blindly and faithfully go where God is directing you, and know that for every step that he's going to give you everything that you need to keep going.
Yes. I love that. God gives you everything you need to keep going and trust in that, right?
Yeah.
Trusting that, moving in that. Okay, you want to share one more? You want to
Okay. Yes,
up your
sure.
checklist? Okay.
I think what I'll do is I'll share the last one, because I feel like this one, I think, is a really good thing
Okay.
to
All right.
share. Well, I'll share the last two if that's okay.
Oh, sure, sure.
Okay, release the burdens and responsibilities of the day by leaving them at the door at the end of the day. And then accept that today is not a measure of your worth, but a day of growth towards your purpose.
That's powerful. Can you speak on both of those?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because one of the things about, and we talked about goals, and that's one of the things that's really important about goals, is understand that there is a time and a place to achieve your goals. And we wake up each day with this list of things that we want to do, and we think about all the things, our responsibilities that we carry with ourselves throughout the day. But when you come home, you need to be able to say, I'm home, and this is my time of rest, and I can pick up.
Mm.
It's funny because one of the things I do with my clients is I say, like, that bag of responsibility, those burdens and things, you got to leave that at the door. Don't bring that inside. Don't bring your work and the stresses of the day into your space at home. Leave it. And because once you wake up and you get all your stuff, and you pack your computer bag, and you get your food or whatever it is that you're going to take with you, you can pick that bag back up. But when you come home and you walk through that door, let it be time for rest and nurturing the relationships of those people that are in your home, or nurture yourself. Release it.
That is beautiful. I felt that. I did. I felt that, releasing it and leaving it there. And what are some ways? Because people may be thinking, well, how do you release it, Angela? I've tried to release it and leave it at the door, but I can't just seem to do that. Is there one way that you have been able to practice leaving it at the door?
Well, you just have to look at it for, you have to just, you just have to think about it as it is, because the reality is that like if you get home at 7 o'clock at night, at 8 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock at night, it is nothing that you can do that's going to benefit your work in any way at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock at night. You are much better off turning off that part of your life and then shifting to your relaxation and your times with your family, so that you can rest and recover and rejuvenate and refresh, and then wake up, with the energy that you need to really, push through your day and accomplish all the goals that you have for that day. It's nothing that, you got to think about what is presently right in front of you. And what's presently right in front of you is your family, is your home, is your kitchen when you come in from the garage, or if you go right into your living room, whatever it is that you walk into, that's your present moment right there. And that's what you should be focusing on. You should not be looking, because what you're doing is you're looking behind you. You're thinking about everything that you just left. You're thinking about work. And that's not what you're supposed to be thinking about. You're supposed to be thinking about what is exactly right in front of you.
Yeah, see, that's powerful right there. The present moments, and the present moments get so lost because we can be so in the past of our yesterday. And our minds have a way of pulling us back into the past. But I love what you say. You have to be focused. Yeah. Right in that present, your family, what's in your home, how you gonna embrace just relaxing, letting the work day go. That is really powerful. I love that. Well, if there's anything that you would like to say to the audience or leave with us, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you, Angela. And I, like I said, I admire you. Because you are a strong woman and you have found your voice. How about that?
Yeah, thank you. I would just say to anybody that's listening that just know that everything that has happened to you and everybody that has happened to you has contributed to who you are in a beautiful way. So find meaning in those past difficult situations and circumstances. And let anything that you've experienced and any goals that you have set for yourself be motivation to move forward, and know that you have everything, everything you need within you to be successful in all aspects of your life, and set that expectation that you're going to be successful in every aspect of your life.
I love that. And you know what? And when we set those expectations, right, we are being real. We're being real with our so we're being true to ourselves, and that's what I'm hearing you say, that you are being true to yourself by setting those expectations, by moving in what you believe that the direction that God is leading you, what you have worked out within yourself, and also knowing that you have all the tools that you need to go forth.
Most definitely you do.
Yes. Well, again, thank you. And I just want to say to everyone, you have been watching Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Voices. Again, Exhale with Regina is designed to help women to see themselves. Many women do not see their gifts, their talents, and abilities, and it keeps them stuck in shame, false guilt, comparison, low self-esteem, and a poor self-image. And we know, just listening to Angela today, that we don't have to stay stuck in any of that we can have the determination to move forward and do the things that we believe that God has called us to do, that we can have the faith and the fortitude to know that we were made with a purpose in mind. I just want you to know that today, that you were made with a purpose in mind. And our sister here today has demonstrated to us and shared out of her deepest heart how we can do that. I appreciate you guys joining. And for those who are going to watch it later on, thank you so much for watching. And again, join us next week. Or yeah, actually, I'm having a special Exhale with Regina with a couple of guests, and I'll be sending out some information about that next Friday. This is a special one, and so I hope to see you there. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.